confirm everything's on. Okay, we are live. So, hello everyone. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here with us. Let me get to the gallery for a second. My guest today is Christiane Michelberger. I hope I said that correctly. And I'll go ahead and read her bio, and then she's going to have a talk. As is usually the case here, if you are joining us on Zoom, you can raise your hand and you can ask a question on video, or you can post into chat. I will continue letting people into the room here. If you post on chat, I'm reading them and I'll read them out loud. So we'll go ahead and get started. In 2015, Christiane was diagnosed with breast cancer. In spite of over 40 years of meditation practice and Buddhist studies, she found herself flooded with debilitating fear. Not being able to cope, she realized that she was spiritually sleepwalking. Being dedicated to finding awakening, she came across a very simple process that led her to fully go beyond the self and end suffering. Christiane guides serious spiritual seekers who yearn to awaken so they can reach their goal. She is a retired physician and psychoanalyst and lives in Hamburg, Germany. Christiane, so good to have you here. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Noel. It's really exciting to be here. So, if you are listening to this, I assume that you're one of the people who are really, really yearning to awaken and just kind of can't crack the code how that works. Maybe you also meditated like me. I did Zen. I meditated, I would think, for 100,000 or more hours. I have no idea. I meditated really a long time and read Buddhist scriptures. Maybe you study scriptures too, or read books of spiritual teachers, and still nothing really changes. Maybe you even had one of these insights where suddenly everything becomes very clear. You see that you're not separate, and then it vanishes. It feels beautiful, and the feeling stays for a bit, maybe a day, maybe a bit longer. And then it just goes away, and left is only a faint memory. So if you want to know how to actually awaken and what awakening is, you're in the right place here. So what is awakening? Basically, it is very simple, and that's the clue. Everything we need to know is hidden in plain sight. It's not somewhere mysterious, which you just can't find. Only very rare souls can do it. No, it's hidden in plain sight, but we think in such a complicated way that we don't see it. It's as if we have glasses, like my glasses on, but not with lenses that correct you to 20/20, but with lenses that distort your view. And basically, it's like 7 lenses that are in front of you. You can break them even more down into 10, but 7 steps. In 7 steps, you take off every single lens one after the other. And then the view suddenly is clear. Then you have 20/20 vision on what really is experienced, and that is awakening. Awakening is not, I'm very sorry, awakening is not gaining some magic faculties, becoming an adored somebody. In fact, nobody will know that you're awakened, and most people find it quite ridiculous anyway. It's not being somebody special. You won't even feel special. Nothing of that happens. You will stand there with gloriously empty pockets. So if that is still what you want, stay. So how do you do that? The Buddha gave a very short instruction. I have a Buddhist training, so I use that one, on how to awaken. He said, when in the scene is only the scene, when in the hurt is simply the hurt, when in the thought is simply the thought, and in the recognized, simply the recognized, then there is no you there. And when there is no you there, there is no you here or there or yonder. This, just this, is the end of suffering. The end of suffering stands for awakening because that is the most prominent feature. You are just no longer discontent in any way, not stressed in any way. It's really the end of suffering. It's quite unbelievable, unbelievable. Just last week, I was again, I'm still surprised. I had a vaccine shot with a COVID shot with AstraZeneca, and I had quite strong side effects. I had a running high fever for 24 hours, and then all kinds of aches and everything that you basically could also get when you get COVID, only in a hopefully much weaker form. And I thought basically this would be a miserable experience, but actually I don't find that to be miserable. I just slept basically all the time when I had fever. And the next day as well, I entertained myself a bit with YouTube videos and then slept again because I was so tired. It wasn't really bad at all. And I thought, I still forget that the suffering thing is gone. It still surprises me sometimes because I don't know why I expected to feel bad. Now I was sick, but I didn't feel bad. And that's the big difference. Experiencing unpleasant things won't go away. That'll stay, but it won't feel bad. And that's quite amazing, I find. So when for you, in the scene is only the scene. Now you might think, looking at something like I'm looking at a samovar which is standing there. Well, I see only the scene in the scene, not something else. A tree is a tree, I can see that. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can see that. And that is the first thing that you read into it, that you are seeing the tree. That is the first lens that will be removed on your path. And when you do that, it's a very simple procedure. It can be made very difficult, but actually it's rather simple. The only thing you need to be able to do is to differentiate between, am I thinking this, which is always fiction, because whatever you think of is not really here, or am I experiencing this? Is this really here right now? And if it is really here right now, you will either see it or hear it, or maybe you touched something or tasted or smelled something. These are the experiences that are actually happening. That's the life our body is going through. Everything else is great fiction, sometimes Oscar-worthy with the special effects, but it's still just fiction. So this is the basic path. You simply deduct everything you read into your experience, every single thing. It starts with reading into your experience that you are seeing, you are hearing, you are thinking, you are deciding, you are acting. Is that true or not? How can you say? Well, it's, again, very simple. You just look whether there is also a you in your experience. Remember, experience is everything but thoughts. When you think of it, you only think of it. It's not there. We can't magically make, I know some people say that, but when we think in the thinking process, like when you think of your holidays, which maybe you can't take because of this virus, well, unfortunately, you're not there. So what we think of is just not there. It's a thought, maybe a memory thought, or a fantasy thought of the future. I'm also dreaming of where I'm going to travel once this has finished. And I'm just equipping my mini camper. But right now, I'm sitting put here in Hamburg. So that is the big difference. Now, when the self-illusion, as many people call this, has fallen away, this is not the whole deal of awakening. It's the beginning. It's the most important first step. It's like the entry ticket into Disneyland. And what you then will find is that you suddenly understand all kinds of talks teachers say. You get them because now it's your experience too. It's no longer this mysterious, oh my, how will I ever understand this? No, yeah, that's just a matter of fact. It's just like saying the tree is green or the sky is blue. Yeah, nice for noticing. It's nothing new. There's nothing new in it. It's just, yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. You will find that you immediately stop listening to teachers reading books about spirituality. It's just like reading a newspaper which says the water is cold, the birch is a white tree, the sun is bright. It's like, yeah, please. It's just the matter of affairs, nothing new. What you will find then, though, is that something new happens. You will feel, by the way, very freed. It's one of the most liberating steps in the inquiry. All this circling around self-worth, am I good enough? Did I make a mistake? Could I have not done better? All this self-related thinking will weaken considerably because it's so clear it's about nothing. You can't be less or more worth, better or worse. I have people who tell me this whole self-improvement thing fell totally away. I have a bookshelf full of books. I'm going to just sell them all now. It just doesn't matter any longer. So it's really nice to feel. What then will surface, mostly after a while, is that you will feel, I'm really an angry person. I didn't think that of myself. You will find that you react to the fly on the wall. It's very weird. Or your desires get worse. Maybe you have some eating things. Especially we women tend to have that. I had this with chocolate. Like you just can't stop eating chocolate. When you start a whole chocolate, you'll eat it. You won't just take a piece or two, no. Or something else to eat, or the internet, great thing these days, the screen, addiction to the screen. There are all kinds of addiction to sex as well. I hope the video doesn't get cancelled because of that. And so then the next lens that needs to be removed is open. It's ready to be tackled. It is the assumption that we have something that makes us want this, what is pleasant basically, and pull it closer, or not want something and push it away. We have basically these two movements. We pull something closer or we push it away, and we do it continuously without a single second break. It's like we have a radar scanning the environment all the time. Is there something better to have? Some way to feel better or less bad, maybe. Maybe you feel quite all right, but then something happens and you feel really bad, and you immediately look for what could me at least feel less bad than this. So this radar is running all the time. It's, by the way, not only discovered by the Buddha. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, as far as I know, didn't have any knowledge of Buddhist teachings. He never wrote about that, and he wrote extensively. But he discovered the lust principle, the pleasure principle. That means we always look for pleasure. That is our very first endeavor, starting with the first breath. And I mean, just watch a baby. It really is like that. It's our fundamental organizing principle. And the last step will be to come to terms with that we cannot always feel good, so that this constant radar scanning can stop and you can really be at peace. I found that the hardest step, actually. Yes, so, and then you look, just like you looked for the me, whether there is any me, for what makes you react. Now, this is already subtler than the me. The me is rather clear feeling of somewhere inside, you often behind the eyes or here. This is me, where I point to, this is me. The next step, where is desire and aversion? It's hard to point to it. So what we use is a tool that Kevin Shanilek developed, and it basically puts the reaction under the microscope to make it possible to see what's happening there and whether there is something like desire and aversion. So basically, you take something, a biggie in your life, something you would want a fairy to just witch away if she could take it away from you. And the biggie you take will stir up more biggies. This is the most emotional step in the whole inquiry, where lots of old issues will come up, or something happens that triggers them. It's quite amazing how life helps with finding these issues that really make you react. And so what you do is, let's say, somebody says, I think my wife doesn't love me any longer. I'm thinking of a divorce. Okay. So then you look for the objectives of this. We can only work with objectives, not with thoughts, because then you would only work with fiction in the thought realm, which can't let us see what is and isn't. So, okay, how would you know that she loves you? What would she do or say? Well, I think she would give me a spontaneous hug more often. Okay. So then you can use a sentence. My wife, or you would use her name, let's say Martha, doesn't hug me spontaneously. Now, this will stir up body sensations, very general body sensations like pressure on the chest, maybe, or constriction in the throat, something like that. Often they are unnamed. If you immediately think again of divorce, you jumped into a reaction. That's also fine. Just come back to the sentence again, let it run out, and then come back. So you feel the body sensations, and they are not to be inquired into. We are not working with emotions primarily here. They are the bait for desire and aversion to come up. And your job is to feel the sensations, lay out the bait, and wait whether desire and aversion bite. My father was a fisherman, and I always think of him when he was fishing, when he was sitting there holding the fishing rod and waiting for the blinker, we call it, to go underwater, so that would show that the fish had bitten. And you just wait whether desire and aversion come and bite. Now, you can make yourself an image of how it would look like when they bite or not. It doesn't really matter. Basically, you simply just wait. You keep watch. You are on sentry duty. Does anything come up that pulls me into the reaction, that sparks the thoughts? I think I have to get a divorce. What is it that starts this thing? So, and you will sit and sit. This is the only thing you will do. You will feel the rather unpleasant sensations, offering them as a bait to desire or aversion to arise. Do they exist? This is the question you have to answer here. when the question is answered, you will know it very clearly again. You always know it very clearly when you've seen through an illusion. It will be crystal clear, absolutely crystal clear. And it's different for everybody, so I can't generally say how it is, but I can say how it was for me. It will certainly not be for you like that. I looked into eating chocolate, my favorite addiction. And I worked for addictions. It's a little bit different with finding the question. Basically, when I felt like getting up, either getting something to eat or chocolate, it didn't really matter. I would ask myself, I would pause and ask myself, okay, what is really missing right now? Is there anything somebody could do or say so that I would totally forget about the chocolate or the yogurt or whatever I want to eat without being really hungry? And for me, it was like a time travel in a speedboat or something like that. I immediately arrived at a very deep thing, which I hadn't reckoned with. I didn't think something like that would come up. It had never come up for me, not in 1,500 hours psychoanalysis. It was that I have what you call an abandonment trauma. Now, I'll tell the story shortly. My parents fled from Soviet-occupied Germany when when my mother was pregnant with me in the 6 months, and they moved to Hamburg because my mother came from there. You had to have a permit to move into the city because all cities were flooded with refugees. And we lived in the basement of a bombed house. Just picture Syria, any bombed town. This is what Hamburg looked like. And my parents gave me into a full daycare where hundreds of other children were as well, because all parents had to do that to somehow get food, start a life again, get wood to heat a stove or to find a stove in the first place. So this was very, very difficult. And but from that time, I had this feeling that there just wasn't anybody there. It's still with me and it comes up sometimes. Well, so I'd use the sentence, there isn't anybody. And the feelings were overwhelming. Basically, I experienced free-floating fear, totally free-floating fear without fear of anything, just fear. I was flooded with fear for days. And it just didn't stop. I found it terrible. And, I have all this psychoanalytic knowledge, which was my reaction. So I imagine all the terrible stuff this does to the structure of a child that needs to be bonding but can't. And it was like a rock horror picture show. So then I just found after 4 days, I've had it. I can't sit with this any longer. I'm going to sit down. And I was at my niece's wedding at that point when this started. I started before, but then my niece's wedding happened. I was in the hotel. I sat on the hotel bed and thought, okay, I'm not going to get up before this ends. And so I just sat down and until there isn't anybody there, I felt the feelings, I felt the fear, and I just sat with it. I didn't need to repeat the sentence once. The fear didn't go away. And all of a sudden, it was as if I had snapped out of a nightmare. Everything was gone. The sensations were gone. The sentence was gone. I didn't really know.
Christine, we lost your audio. Or Christiane, we lost your audio. I think maybe something clipped out.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah.
It was like waking up from a nightmare. And so afterwards, I still had some echoes from, I hadn't slept for nights, so I was really tired. And the next morning, and this is also something you will always experience after every step, tests come in. I accused my guide, who was Kevin Chanilek, to have arranged that. I was in radiation therapy for my breast cancer at that point, and the office called me and they said, "We are very sorry to tell you, we have to change your appointment to another doctor. Your doctor is out of town." And this, I had had a meltdown in the office when that had happened before, because this was exactly this abandonment trauma. And so I waited for what would happen, and nothing happened. And I thought, wow. And I didn't know what to answer. And then the woman said, "Yes, we are so sorry." And she apologized because she had been in the office when I had had my meltdown. And then I finally said, no, it's okay. I'll take the other appointment. And it really was okay. And on my journey back, I traveled with the train. I discovered how content I was. I was so content, I can't describe it. I thought, gosh, I've never known contentment my whole life up to now. It was such a deep and sweet contentment, just with what is. And everything went wrong. The trains didn't connect because they were late, and all kinds of things happened on the journey. But it was just, yeah, it happens, and that's it. They were just facts. I didn't respond emotionally charged any longer. So that is the second lens. And when we no longer push and pull at experience, we can start to explore reality itself, which is really exciting. And I will only shortly touch on that so you have some time for your questions. So the next step is looking into the subject-object split. We think we are different from everything else, separated by boundaries, often by the boundary of our body, from what is around us, but also from everything we hear, we feel, from our thoughts. We're just separate from everything. And in this inquiry, you look for the subject, and when it is seen and realized that there is no subject, the boundaries fall. This makes clear that there is no separation. There is no something different outside to you. And this is pretty mind-blowing, actually, I find, and pretty amazing. The emotional stuff is now gone. This is totally unemotional. This is just wow. And then you inquire into the most basic faculty we think we have, phenomenal faculty, that is perception. We believe that there is a world outside of ourselves which is mirrored in our perception, just as it is. So the world exists independently of us. And when we happen to walk by and we see something or hear something or touch something, then what is outside appears in our own perception. That is not the case. This is the step of the end of your world as you knew it. In this step, you realize that the world is actually not outside of you, not the world you experience. We cannot experience a world outside of ourselves. You can access that logically. Let's take seeing. When I look at something, I don't see a tree. I look on trees here. My eye can't see a tree. My eye can't see it all. It receives light waves, and the light waves turn into electrical currents and go to the brain. The brain then decodes it, and you see what is decoded. Now, what is decoded in your brain will differ widely from what is decoded in your dog's or cat's brain, for example. We cannot know whether we see something that is actually out there because we can never stick our head out of experience. We can't just have a look around and see what's actually there. It will always only be our experience. So this is mind-blowing is the wrong word. This is really quite shocking. I found it quite shocking because, and you know, the Buddha teaches that the world is just within this fathom-long frame with its senses. But yeah, I read that, I don't know how many times, but I never thought he meant that literally. Yeah, he did. He actually meant everything literally. So this is the last step. You deal with reality, and then there is only a little thing left, and that is the foundation of what we feel is our existence, the sense of I exist or I am. And you inquire into that is very, very subtle, and this will fall away as well. And there will be no identity left whatsoever. You won't feel like you're a man, a woman, a mother, a father, a teacher, an internet specialist in some regard, whatever. You won't feel that. I don't feel Buddhist as a Buddhist teacher, as a anything, no qualities. Oh, I'm awakened. It's just a bogus sentence. It just doesn't make any sense. So this needs adjusting. It really needs adjusting. It took me a lot of adjusting to it because very quickly the next step started itself, and that is restlessness, a really strong restlessness. I likened it to the tide, really, a tsunami of restlessness arose, trying to find something safe again, something to hold on to, something I can stand on, something to rely on, something that makes it possible to always feel good. And everything was gone now. Even the last sense of I exist, that was the first thing that was created in the beginning. To get something that makes me feel safe and held, and something that can maybe guarantee that I can make sure I feel good. And when that falls away, my restlessness was looking for, hey, it had something it had to protect all the time. Where was that gone? I didn't recognize it. It just felt terrible. And the restlessness will be there. Nobody goes without it. It will differ in its strength, definitely. And for people who are traumatized and who have had difficult emotional conflicts, they will also surface here if they haven't been worked on in the meantime. Emotions play a big role on awakening, and they need to be dealt with. It's very important. They don't just disappear with awakening. On the contrary, I think that with awakening, with the I disappearing, the defense mechanism disappear, that safely kept everything away we didn't want to feel, and now it comes up. So it's good if you deal along with what comes up along the way, because it will come up. It always does. And this restlessness then will calm down. It just calms down. You can look into it and do all kinds of things. I find that I'm basically entertaining my clients when I do that. Basically, it has to calm down. You can't speed it up. You can look again and again. Is there really something of substance that you're looking for, something that makes you feel safe, or something that's permanent, reliable? That these are the three things we are looking for, or that guarantees that you'll always feel good. When this calms down, when the storm calms down, the view becomes clear. But on the last step, we think, we believe, we made ourselves believe that we don't know. The last step is called ignorance. We think we don't know. I think we made ourselves believe we don't know. In this last step, you will see, again with a shift, clearly what is and always has been. It's actually a joke because it always has been the case. It's never been different. You didn't arrive anywhere else. It has always been like this. But now you know, because everything that you read into it to create all these assumptions of safety and permanence and always feeling good and being in control. And this has fallen away, and now you see clearly what is. And the weirdest thing is, I've never felt that safe ever in my life without anything to rely on. That was mind-blowing for me. Really mind-blowing. All right, so that's the journey to awakening, how I know it. Now, please ask me your question.
Thank you so much for that. I love that. So if you have a question you want to ask on video, you can raise your hand and we'll have you unmute and ask, or you can type it into chat. All right, we've got some people on. So John, go ahead.
Hey, Christina, how you doing?
Thank you, fine. Hi, John. Go ahead. John, are you still there?
John, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't have it on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed what you had to say. I had a very deep experience with the Liberation Unleashed also.
Mm-hmm.
And it was seeing through that self.
Right.
And then afterwards, I felt, didn't feel this, I felt actually a big emptiness from not, the seeking wasn't, I kind of was having fun with it. And then I didn't know what to do because it was so, I was trying to force it. But I did realize there was more. I just sort of knew that this wasn't it, but I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
I never really had it. I never heard it broken down like the way you have. I mean, I got it in pieces, like, you know, the external world and that. But anyway, what I wanted to say was the way you described it, except for maybe the last few, I've experienced them, but not in like a linear way. Like sometimes I'm experiencing step 3 that you talked about, or sometimes step 4, or sometimes step 2. So, I mean, they kind of, I feel like they kind of bled into one another, but maybe not completed. So you know, I guess because I haven't worked in a structured type program like you're talking about, you know what I'm saying? So how does that correlate, you know, to somebody who hasn't, you know, been under a system like that, but it's had experiences of what you're talking about at different levels at different times, and then back and forth and things like that. That's kind of my question.
Yes, that is well possible. It's an excellent question. How I conceptualize it, it's, you know, you can find all kinds of concepts for this. How I do it is think of the inquiry as a boat. Like the boat has a front and an end, and the boat moves from here to here to here. All right. Now, if the boat is anchored here, it can get a bit leeway and can move a bit forward, but at some point the anchor chain will be straight and will pull the boat back. And the front of the boat is called leading edge. That's what I found in a dictionary anyway. And the back of the boat is called trailing edge. Now you can be in your leading edge quite far ahead. Later, actually, I was in the leading edge of being past the fetters when I actually was still in 4-5 with my trailing edge. So the boat can get quite long, but it doesn't really matter. You will eventually be pulled back to your trailing edge so you know where you are and can look into that step, because you can't move ahead fully if your boat is still anchored somewhere.
Okay, so wherever you haven't kind of gone beyond, you can't truly, you know, you can't really get past. You can have experiences in those next steps,
Right.
but you won't really be in that next step to kind of fit, you know, get through that and move forward. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah. Okay. That really makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I signed up for working with you, but I mean, there's a waiting list, but I look forward to.
Oh, you'll get an email from me soon because I will change something, but you'll get an email soon. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, John.
So if anyone else has a question, please jump in. When I first spoke with Christiane, she said she likes answering questions. And you touched on it a little bit, but in terms of you working with your students, you call them students? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd call them
Yeah.
clients. Usually it doesn't
Clients,
really
okay,
matter,
yeah.
whatever.
Whatever, okay. There is different terms for it, but some people call it oscillation. Sort of I've got it
Yes.
and then I've lost it.
Mhm.
How do you guide people? What do you say when those when those sticking points come up for people?
All right. So there are two kinds of oscillations. The oscillation can happen in one step, like, for example, in the first step in the self-illusion, it can often happen that somebody feels, I got it. And then shortly afterwards, they feel, oh no, I lost it. And then you just continue with the questions. Just keep them looking. Why do they think they lost it? What came back? How do they know the me came back? And it's a great opportunity to look for it again. So if it happens in one step, you just have them, I just have them look. Keep looking, just keep looking. It'll fall, just keep looking. And if it oscillates between many steps, then I try to find out, which is not always easy, which is the earliest step, which is the trailing edge, actually. So here is the boat somewhere, and this might be, let's say, 8 and or 7, step 7, and here is the trailing edge, let's say 4, 5. Now, how do I know where they are? There are markers for everything. Like for 5, the marker is that they react. If you're beyond for 5, you do not react any longer. You can respond, but it won't have any emotional charge. So that's the difference. In 6, if they think they are in control, which is a biggie for people who are traumatized, then the self-illusion is back, or isn't seen through, basically. It's not yet seen through fully. When they experience the world in a 3-dimensional way, the 6th theta is in place. Also, they still experience a body that should be gone then too, because with the falling away of the borders between us and ourselves, we don't experience a body any longer. Only sensations where it's touched, but the image of a body isn't overlaid over these sensations. And in the next one, it is crystal clear that there is no substantial permanent world, that the experience is insubstantial. And if that is not the case, and time and space are definitely gone at that time, and if that is not the case, then that is the step. And I always go to the earliest step, because the otherwise won't fall anyway before the earliest step is done. And if they still have a sense of existing, I am consciousness, I am awareness, I am being, I am everything. This is the 8th theta, and the 5th step. And then that needs looking into. So and the restlessness can't be overlooked. And when the last sense of I am is gone, should there be any remainders of the last theta still, they will go with the sense of I exist. After that, all the self-related fetters are gone. The last sense of self takes everything with it. Does that answer your question?
That's a great answer. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I loved listening to you talk about this at the beginning, because we have, and nothing, we really try to offer, we call them flavors, all the different flavors of this, of what is. And they range from, there's nobody here, nothing's happening, ask away type of questions. And I like that you have this process. And so,
yes, this is what I find very important, because I searched for 40 years and nobody could offer a process. And then when I came across LU, I saw Through the Self-Illusion with the book, The Gateless Gatecrashers, that is a book where dialogues are printed. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And Kevin Shanilak developed that for the rest of the fetters. Fetters is the name for these different delusions because they fetter our ability to see clearly. Yeah. Yes, and you know, I once read somebody who said, in it, was it under a YouTube video or somewhere in a group? He said, I don't want to hear your beautiful words any longer. Tell me how to do it. And that's what I do. You won't hear beautiful words from me. I'm sorry. No satsang.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, and that's why people show up over and over again. They want to know. It's a common question. Tell me what to do. What do I do? And then I also think it's funny that there ends up being a stickiness with like, wait, there's a process, there's something that you can follow. And when you're seeking and you want the answers, this idea, this approach, guiding, it is helpful. It is helpful.
Right. And the most helpful in the guiding process are the questions, because it's very hard to ask yourself the right questions as long as the illusion is in place, because it seems so self-evident that it's there and that's of course there. It can't be doubted. And only somebody who has seen through the illusion, it doesn't matter which step, can ask these questions because they see that you're reading something into it. Otherwise, it's not possible to see it. The questions are crucial and they're not within us. Yeah. And I really resonate with not knowing what to do once you completed a step. After I went through all steps, I really ran out of something to do. And I said to my uncle, I said, and what am I going to do now? And he said, well, maybe start to find words to guide others. And that is a process. It's not easy because at the end, you're in a pretty non-verbal space. And speaking seems like a total waste of energy because everything is so obvious. Why talk about it? But it's not obvious for everybody. And so it's important to learn words that gain access to the intellect and can be understood so people can put that into action. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I this whole thing started because I didn't feel like talking about it anymore. So now I get to sit here and smile until my face hurts watching you and others talk about it. It's so great. So what is your, like you said, obviously you get lots of questions. What would you say is, what are some of the top questions that you get and the responses?
The first thing I would like to say to all who are listening, please ask your question, even if you feel it's stupid. For me, there is no such thing as a stupid question. All right? Ask it, ask away. The top questions that I get, they are the questions that address, will I be able to function without a self? I mean, can I still do my job? Can I still drive a car? Will I still love my children and my wife or my husband? Will I go mad maybe? These are the top questions, yeah.
Great. Okay, we have Eligio. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly, but go ahead and unmute yourself and you can add video if you like.
Yeah. Hey, how you guys doing? Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
It's Eligio. I never heard you speak. But yeah, those are the concerns, what you were just saying about if the me drops off, it's like what's gonna happen to my finances?
Right.
Am I gonna take care of my dog? Am I not gonna care of my dog? Am I gonna be mean to my dog, or am I gonna not care about my children? All of those concerns where the me is fully involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the doubt, creates doubt, and then perpetuates the me inside. So I guess you probably don't have any prescriptions either, because you can't. What are your feelings about that? You can't prescribe me to do anything, correct?
Pardon me?
You cannot, like, you cannot prescribe me to do anything. Like, you cannot prescribe me a exercise or a meditation or anything to advance.
To get rid of the doubt?
Right.
Ah, okay. So this is a very important question, because, I mean, we feel, and it feels totally obvious, that we are managing our life, often failing, but often succeeding too. So what will happen if this me is gone? Now, the good thing is, though it feels like there really is a me, there actually isn't one. You are only imagining that. So you're not going to lose anything. You are already managing your life without a me. You're just thinking there is a me. It's kind of your, like the little toy a child has that makes them feel safe. And it's not there. The toy can't make the child feel safe. And it's like seeing that Santa doesn't exist. What happened when you saw that Santa doesn't exist?
What happened was that I was disappointed, maybe, that Santa Claus didn't exist, but I'm fine now. I mean, I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
I
Do you
don't need Santa.
still get some gifts?
Yeah, people still give me gifts.
Good. All right, so nothing.
Oh, and I don't.
You lost nothing.
And I don't care. I really don't care about the gifts.
Yeah.
They gave me sweaters and stuff. But so then it's like, I'm sorry, I've never been here, so I don't know if I'm taking up too much time or I'm asking too many questions.
No, it's fine.
You tell me.
Fine. I bet many people have the same questions.
And so yeah, I totally get it conceptually that there is no me, but it's like still stubbornly there.
Yeah, I fully get that.
Yeah.
When I came across LU, I looked at the site and I read the dialogues, which you can read without being registered. And I thought, okay, something is really happening here. Then I researched the background of the founders. All seemed all right. Nobody crazy around. Then I thought, okay, then Ilona, one of the founders, United, has a website marked Eternal. And there she has an instruction, if you do it yourself, what to do. And the first is looking into these questions. Will I still function? What are your fears, your expectations? And when I thought, wow, this could really work. Do I want it? Do I really want it to work? It was really scary. Yeah. I found it very scary. Yeah. And I had read that it's like seeing that Santa doesn't exist, but it didn't really comfort me, to be honest. Yeah. And now I have had a very exotic spiritual search. And I had, and during that time, during the 40 years, ended and restarted my life 4 times. I went abroad. I lived in India, in the States. I did all kinds of things in this town, in that town. And I thought, you're really experienced with this. If anything happens, you'll fall on your feet. You can do this. Also, when something really bad happens, because something bad had happened to me as well on that path, and I'd fallen on my feet after all. So then I thought, okay, but I really had to overcome a threshold. It is frightening. And I'll tell you, it's not only frightening once. And when starting looking into reality itself, it became frightening for me again. And it was always this question, will I be able to function? After some time, it's like when you find that out, when I found it out, I said, oh my God, I got the same question again. I mean, I know that whatever I saw through just doesn't exist, but now I'm thinking it again. It's so stubborn. It's really something where it's a bit of taking a jump into the unknown. It is. Because
Yeah.
it cannot be known how it will be. It cannot be known. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's that leap of faith that we all must do,
Right.
maybe, or
Right.
not do. But
Or
then
not
a
to.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where I missed some of your talk, but some of these guys say like who would be the one taking that leap, because you're not really there anyways, so it's like nothing to really do because you're not there to do it.
Right. Sometimes the pressure just needs to be high enough. Since you weren't there in the beginning, I had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had completely freaked out. And I just realized that my spiritual search had brought nothing. I still felt like I have cancer, my body might die, I'm afraid, my thoughts are racing, I can't control them. There was always this me, I. And I thought, nothing had helped. I haven't seen that there is no self in no ways whatsoever. I need to fight now. And there was urgency behind it because at that point I was still in hospital and I didn't know how the result would be, how far it might have spread maybe. And so I really felt like I turned my back on this exotic identity as a spiritual seeker. And now I really needed to find. Game over. Game over.
Game over. Interesting.
Yeah.
Real quick, and I'll let you go. But Ram Dass, you know who that is?
Yes.
Ram Dass. Yeah, he the 60s, 70s, he was a practitioner, and he wrote books and he's a teacher and all of that stuff. And he had a stroke, and he talks about how when he had the stroke toward the end of his life, he was saying that he felt that he still felt terror when that happened. He couldn't move, and he's like, well, I should have overcome this because I'm not here and all of that stuff. And he still felt like he wasn't completely there, completely enlightened, I guess, because why is he having these thoughts? Just like
right,
you.
he might be right. I don't know him personally, so I can't say anything about it, but his judgment might be right. Now, I had another experience with cancer 3 years later. I was diagnosed with uterine cancer, and that was such a different experience. It was amazing. First of all, when my doctor told me, I thought that probably I would at least have an echo of what I felt in the first time when I was diagnosed with cancer. And now by that time, I was very experienced with being with all my feelings. So I just relaxed and said, let's see what comes up. Nothing came up, literally nothing. It was like, so. And my doctor was a little confused, and she said, yeah, you could ask why. And then I found my speech back and said, no, you won't ask this question, we can never answer it. So what do I have to do? Because though I'm a physician, I had only thought forward with breast cancer, but I hadn't thought about uterine cancer, and I had no idea what you have to do then. And so she told me everything, and we discussed in which hospital I should go. And I did that. And of course, surgery is painful afterwards. But it felt like I wasn't touched. Really, I was discharged, and I was so amazed. It was like I hadn't suffered a scratch. It was totally amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Ram Dass says he had doubts at that moment. He had doubts, but I think he overcame after his stroke. Anyways, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking my question.
You're welcome.
And I'll keep listening.
Yes.
Thanks, Liho.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard, I think he said, Ram Dass said, I thought I thought I wasn't afraid of death, and then I had a stroke, and it all came washing in. So, but then you
Yes.
hear, then you'd hear him afterwards talking about his gratitude for it. In fact, I think he even
Right.
said in a documentary that I saw that that he thought that his guru was the one that that stroked him in some aspect. So
Yes.
but
I consider my breast cancer the greatest blessing of my life. Absolutely. And if I die of it, it's the greatest blessing of my life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Definitely.
Leo, thank you for that question. That was great. So I've got a couple more.
Mhm.
David Wow asked something similar, but David, if you're okay with it, I'll just reframe it in a different way. So, hi, Christiana. How do you explain the radical non-duality speakers? And that's what I was kind of referring to earlier, the different flavors, the ones that are saying, you know, they don't address that me, and they say that life is not a process.
Can you say a little bit more what they say? I don't listen to radical non-dualists. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
sorry. So we sort of we call them kind of like no concessions. So there's no you, nothing's happening. There's just what's happening. You know, this idea of I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to read between my, they do not address the me. Or Neo-Advaita. There's all these different names, you know, so many different labels for this thing, which is which is hilarious, but that are saying that life is not a process. So maybe the question David's asking is this: there's this juxtaposition in these steps and this process, and what do you say to those speakers that say that life isn't a process? There is nothing that can be done.
That can be done to awaken,
To do anything, I guess.
to do anything. Well, then just sit in the corner. Well, I can't confirm from my experience that nothing is happening. There is a lot happening. And so this is not correct, I would say. Yeah, there is nobody dies. Yeah. Just get a serious disease and you'll find out. This is basically a lingo that developed from a conceptual understanding, because this can't be experienced. Nothing is done. It's just not true. There are things done all the time. And these people are at least speaking, so something is done, right? Yes.
Apparently. Yeah.
Maybe they mean they are not speaking, like they are not controlling what they say and things like that. That might well be, but it's not that nothing is done.
Yeah, and John added, they say there's no causality, no cause for awakening. And I also find it interesting that your words are sharing their similarities. There's this crossover to it, and that's what I love, that we sort of shake things up. If this channel, if this whatever this is, it was just people saying no one's here, like we really should, and I've said this in the past, like the best teaching would be for us to just not say anything. If that's really what we're going for, if we're going for being right, we would just sit here in silence. But it's not
right.
It's not interesting or useful. So here we are, doing our best to apply words and systems and processes to things.
Right.
So David Limburg, thank you. I'm going to get you to your video question here in one moment. Brent asks, is there a book or writings that can guide us so that we can work through this process?
I have a website, findingawakening.com, where every step is explained in detail. And I'm also writing on a book, which will also have the name Finding Awakening, which will, I think, come out in fall. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you. And also you mentioned Ilona, she has a show on Nothing. It's on first Wednesday, so I wanted to plug her. The next one is May 5th.
Great.
Okay, so David, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah. I will see if I can say this so you can understand it. So I am currently being diagnosed for ADD, which is kind of like ADHD, but without the physical hyperactivity. And when I have tried, I'm not on medication right now, but when I've tried those medications, I have felt suddenly that, oh, so this is how it feels to actually have a brain that works. Like this is how it feels to be functional and to be able to plan and have a functional life. And I also, I don't know, just feel functional in my work life, but also I feel more connected to like the spiritual aspect of myself, or I feel more connected towards source or the self or whatever we want to call it.
Beautiful.
But what I'm afraid of is that I don't like the idea of me being medicated and have to rely on being on medication, because somehow that feels that it goes against awakening. It goes against total acceptance of who I am. But at the same time, it feels like I have to be able to be functional. So I don't know what my question is, but maybe something along the lines of how do you look at being medicated and the process of awakening? Like, can they exist simultaneously?
No, very good question. So basically, I talk about two different kinds of medication. There is medication for ADD, ADHD, which basically makes your brain function normally, right? At least for the time, as long as the medication lasts. That is no problem with awakening, not at all. I actually work with people who are neurodiverse, either autistic or ADHD. And I'm very well ADHD myself, so I know that. Not ADHD, I don't have the H, I'm also ADD. But what happens in the awakening process is you'll find that you accept that much better. Now I'm retired. I can afford to forget things. And in my work, I'm very organized with reminders on my phone, so I don't forget the things. But it won't stop you awakening. I mean, you have another great ability, that is hyperfocus. If you're really interested in something, you can just forget about the time and can focus hours on ends. So this is my special interest, my hyperfocused. So I have no problem focusing here. And I think
that is also like a strength, but I think one of the downsides with my hyperfocus is that my interests change every month or every 2 months. So it feels like I can't stick with something. I can't stick with one subject and actually go into that.
Okay.
But I see what you are saying about maybe fixing the brain through medication doesn't have to go against the awakening problem.
No, I wouldn't think so. What can be problematic if people take medication against depression, that might work, but not always. I have some people who just can't go ahead, and I'm wondering whether it's their medication. Bipolar disease. I have somebody who has bipolar disease. She reduced slowly her medication, but we're working very slowly. Like, usually the process takes between 1.5 to 3 years about, and she has been in it much longer because I don't work with so many questions to focus her on seeing through an illusion. so that she doesn't get this whole rush of, the shift is pretty much a rush of seeing something. And that might send her maybe into the more maniac phase. I don't know. So we don't know. We both are experimenting with this, fully knowing that we need to pay a lot of attention to that. And I'm only daring this because I know how to work with people with this disease from my physician specialty. So this is very important. People who take drugs for any reasons, be it for stabilizing their mood or gaining spiritual insight, I don't take them. The drugs mess the process up. And there was a reason that the Buddha said not to take any conscious altering drugs, because it changes the transmitters in the brain, and then somehow you can't see that clearly. You think you see clearly, and on some level you may do, but you're actually not anchored in the senses, in the life this body is going through. So you can't see clearly for good what is actually there and what isn't. You have an altered reality experience. And that doesn't help on the path to awakening. At least not on the one I use. I took an I now guide in. Yeah.
But maybe I missed your point there, but did you now say that medication can actually be a problem for the awakening progress?
Right. And that is not the medication that helps your brain to function when you are neurodiverse. That is very different to having a mental disease. Basically, your brain is wired differently, nothing else, which has upsides and downsides. Like, you'll know him, Dr. Hallowell says, you have a Ferrari with bicycle brakes. And you just need to strengthen the brakes. But if people have a mental disease, it's very unknown what causes that. We still don't know it. And we have this hypothesis that they too have different brain transmitters, which never was proven and could be proven. They tried to prove it. So we don't know what's happening. And the medication, it feels like it creates some inflexibility in the watching process. Now, you always need to look exactly for the illusion, whether it's actually there or not. And somehow this, if you look into the experience directly, the experience is more right hemispheric. Usually we often use the more left hemispheric experience. And left hemispheric is thinking, analyzing, and right hemispheric is experiencing, creativity, intuiting. And it seems that the flexibility to move from one side to the other is reduced. Now, this is another hypothesis for me, but to me it looks like that. I'd love somebody to research into that. And if I had 1,000 arms like the Indian goddess, I'll do it myself, but I don't. Yeah. So this is my expression from the guidances I have. Like, I have several people with ADHD, and I have people with autism, so different things on the neurodiverse, being neurodiverse, and it feels differently. And for autistic people, they're again wired differently, which leads to a very different life experience, but they can still awaken. They just see life through a different lens again. Yeah. I think I might be on that spectrum too, but I'm not sure. I'm not diagnosed, so I can't say that for sure. But it's just a little bit, it's again a different life experience. Yeah. So, do you have another question? So,
yeah, thank you, David, for your question.
You're not, anybody who's listening and has ADD or ADHD, you're not a lost case as far as awakening goes. You might be a lost case for remembering some things, but not for awakening.
Thank you for that. And David, thank you for your question. I have it looks like it might be an audio question from Eugene. Eugene, if you'd like to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, Eugene.
Hello, Christiane. I have so many questions, so
Go ahead.
maybe I'll just pose it as a conversation. I'll let you answer as I go.
Right. Let me answer one after the other. That's the easiest.
Physical death. Will this enlightenment process, awakening, happen at physical death? Because I'm afraid I'm not going to reach level 7 or with all these methods before physical death.
I wouldn't think so that it happens upon dying.
Uh-huh.
Why would you be wiser when you die?
Well, there wouldn't be a me there. There wouldn't be addiction. There wouldn't be, I'm not sure. It seems like the process, I don't know if I will reach the process of awakening. And there's so many steps in life to get there. And it seems rather complicated. Anyway, I'll just move on.
Wait for a moment. No, wait for a moment. I tell you what I think. Now, I haven't died, so I can't tell for sure. Really died and not come back. So I can't tell for sure. But from my viewpoint now, in many schools, they talk about rebirth. So from how I experience the world now, it's totally basically thought together. My brain thinks this reality we are experiencing together. It kind of makes it up. I wouldn't be surprised that the tendencies that remain, for example, let's say the tendency to always feel good, to be safe, to have something to rely on, that they translate into building another imaginary reality after death. That sounds very plausible to me. Now, this is a concept. I don't know whether this happens. I have no idea. But this is how I would explain rebirth, that just another world is thought together. These tendencies basically recreate the experience on another level. Integrating maybe the tendencies that got stronger and the ones that got weaker maybe no longer appear. And the process of awakening is basically letting all these tendencies fully calm down. Nibbana, which is the Pali word for nirvana, the Buddha spoke Pali, means literally extinguishing a fire. In some countries, like in Thailand, they still say the kitchen fire is nibbana. It's extinguished when they cook on a kitchen fire. And this means all the fire, the wanting this and not wanting that, and the delusion, this all is burnt down. And when there is no ember left in the ashes, it won't flare up again. It can't create something new. The Buddha said, somebody asked him, where will you be when you die? And the Buddha asked back, where's the flame after the candle is extinguished? After the candle has burnt down. So this would be my explanation, but hey, I can't say that with authority. It's just how it looks like from my side now.
From my viewpoint, I think that your candle, since you've gone through the process, this sounds like somewhat of a death in itself, even though you haven't physically died.
Yes, it's a death. It's a death. It's fulfilling this die before you die. Because what really can die, what we're afraid of is we die.
Mm-hmm.
And when that we is gone, there is nothing left that will die. Yeah, the body will no longer function right.
Right. And as this is a process, I'm thinking that there are going to be different people on different levels before actually reach physical death. There's some people who might be at the beginning level and then they pass on, and who knows what happens after that. And there's people who are more advanced, probably like you, who has gone through the entire process. Anyway, I was wondering, you said you were on the search for 40 years
Mm.
and then you had breast cancer.
Mm.
And then you found out that there was a me, and I have to find. I'd be interested in you expanding on that, because you were searching for the no me, and then your breast cancer came. Then there was a strong me there.
Mhm.
But in the end of your process, you also talked about your me disappearing. And it sounds like, this process, you're asking the me to kill the me. Because
Yeah, you can't do that.
yeah, I mean, if you're talking to me, I'm still worried about my bank account. I'm still worried about how I treat others around me.
Yeah. So I could answer two things. First, I would like to talk about the Buddhist teaching about what happens if you die after certain steps. Would you like to hear that?
Sure.
And then I can talk, what would you like to hear from me about the discovering that there is a me?
Well, it seems like you went through different process of me's. You started with the searching for a no me. You had breast cancer, and you had a strong me because you knew you had to fight. And in the process that you were describing through the different levels, all the lenses falling away, the final process was a me falling away.
Okay, so basically the me structure has several layers. You can think of it as an onion. So there is the very core, that is the sense of I am or I exist. Then comes perception. This assumed I am is equipped with the faculty of perception, creating a world outside of ourselves. And this is the rise of the world. Then the subject is assumed that is separate from the world, and then wants or not wants what it experiences. And then it, tries to writes and rituals to get what it wants, and doubts. And then finally, the last layer of the me is created, the outside onion peel, that is the me that thinks it's in control, it acts, it decides, it thinks it's the agent of everything, it's behind the wheel. And that's the last layer. Now, when this first layer falls away, the Buddha says, this is stream entry. This means when the first layer has fallen away, you will awaken, he says, either in this or the next 7 lifetimes. You will not be reborn more than 7 times. I can't talk to this. I quote the Buddha with this. So from uncountable rebirths, you go to 7, which is huge. This is the most important step to get into the stream of awakening. And you'll know when you're in there. The next step is weakening desire-ill, reacting less strong. When desire and ill will is weakened, you will only have one more life, according to the Buddha, in the human realm. When desire and ill will are gone, ill will is another word for aversion, then the Buddha says, no more life on the human realm. You will end up after your death on some higher level. I don't know what he said, which one, but I forgot. And from there, you will disappear. You will vanish. So these are the 4 steps. It's stream entrant, once returner, non-returner, arahant. That's the 4 steps.
Okay.
And the first 2, seeing through the self-illusion, already that is the huge step. That is possible to take. Look at LU. I do not guide in this step any longer. It's been too long that I haven't experienced in me. I just can't. And then maybe you can do a weakening later of desire and aversion. I think that's well possible. I find that it's possible for nearly everybody who has seen through the self-illusion. Seeing through the first step, the me, is the eye of the needle. When you're through that, the path opens up.
Would you say that you need a guide? You talked about emotional trauma, and you said sooner or later, when the me starts falling away, you'll still have to deal with that. Do you need
Yes, you
someone
will.
there, or do you talk to your higher self? Or
Well, if you're really traumatized and didn't work on it yet and resolve it, I would suggest a therapist, really.
okay,
And you can have, I worked with somebody, unfortunately, she was German. We made a long video about her journey on my German website. And she had multiple traumas, and she went through the path, but she had years of trauma therapy. That was really helpful. Otherwise, it would really have gotten to her after seeing that there is no me at all. The step, when any sense of I am disappears.
So that's not a spiritual guide. It's a professional therapy guide.
That should be a professional therapist. I mean, I'm an exception because I'm a psychoanalyst, but most guides are not therapists.
No.
And so it would be good to find somebody who really has experience with that. And I send people to therapists if I feel they really need to work this out. Because it can be in the way, if we are traumatized, the most threatening thing is to lose control. Because whatever the trauma was, we survived because of the fantasy of some kind of control over the situation. And when already in the first step we see there is no me, it becomes clear we are not in control. And for this to happen, we have to have worked through the trauma mostly to be able to let go of the assumption that we are in control. It doesn't mean there is no control. There is control, but you are not in control. There is no you. Like when I lift this glass, this is the most delicate control I can think of. It hits my lips. But you are not in control. I can keep speaking and still lift my glass exactly to my lips without even thinking about it. Yeah.
Final question. If you were presented with a chocolate bar now, would you still eat the whole thing?
I would look at the brand first. Yeah, I eat chocolate still. I like special chocolate, and I find it kind of a waste to eat chocolate that doesn't taste good.
Well, Christiane, thank you for bringing a different perspective to this non-duality subject. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Eugene, thank you for your question, and Christiane, thank you so much. So it looks like John, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Christiane. Quick question. What if you got through a traumatic situation post awakening, and it seemed in this experience that it was more that I got through it in spite of a me, and just there was something that just carried me through? Like, would that kind of, in a sense, would that not be what you mean by the trauma holding you back? Because this grit to kind of get through something, I kind of got to the point, the grit was just, there was no grit to work. It was just like something was carrying me through, and it wasn't me. It was still terrible, but there was just a sense that I couldn't do this, so the resilience of whatever life itself was just keep me going. So is that?
Yeah. Taking the terms loosely, life itself. Sometimes you just keep going nevertheless, and maybe you have the feeling something carried you through. For me, it's more that I'm stubborn. I can be really stubborn. If you're guided by me, you will come to know that. And so I just said, I'm going to do this no matter what. And I experienced quite some things. At one point, I thought I'd gone completely mad. I really thought that. I thought, I can't go to a colleague and tell them the story. Then they'll really think I'm mad. And then after the self fell away, I was very, very disturbed because I thought, oh my God, how am I going to function? How is this going to work? And it took me some really loving friends, and friends are the best thing on your journey. Good friends who help you along. There are so many names I could name who helped me, people who helped me. When I thought I'd gone mad, what I experienced was actually not something. I don't know why I thought that in hindsight, but then I was sure I'd gone mad. I was cooking lunch. I just gathered the ingredients, and everything felt so close, really close. Actually, it was inside me, and then it felt, but there was no me, and then it felt like I was scattered everywhere, but was still no me. It was like. And then I was walking through myself, and then I freaked out, like in a computer game. I thought, okay, I've given it to me. And then I just remembered somebody who had talked about a very traumatic awakening out of the blue. And I just wrote to him, sent him a PM on Facebook and said, hey, something really terrible happened to him. Can you help me? I know you had this experience. You described it. We know each other from LU. And he said, oh, yeah, that's so nice. Go ahead. And I described it, and he was fully relaxed and said, this is just too much energy, too much mental activity. And he told me to just calm down and just go to the physical level, totally screen time out and not inquire, not do anything, just really ground myself with physical activity and walks after each meal. And I followed it to a T, and within days I was restored. But these friends are so helpful. The Buddha was once asked by the monk who was with him all the time, whether good spiritual friends aren't half your spiritual life. And the Buddha said, no, I disagree. Good friends are your whole spiritual life. And this is how it is. You really need good friends. A lady in Australia, when I freaked out, who was up while I couldn't sleep, and was kind enough to listen to me and to feed me in on all this non-dual stuff, which I hadn't all heard of. This feeling one with everything isn't on the Buddhist menu. So I didn't know what this was. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a context for it at all?
At all, no. And then the only thing my mind has context for is, you're mad, you've gone mad.
Right.
This is how madness looks like.
Right. It's like an oceanic, yeah, I get that. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, you can imagine before the internet how many of these things led to people being taken to the psychiatric ward.
Yes, certainly.
John, thank you for your follow-up. And we've got a question from Heidi.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Christiane. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. So my point is, my story is, I had a near-death experience when I was when I had 2.5 years. And my parents told me what happened, but this was all the time just a story for me. And I tried to go on by a normal life like this. And all the time, something seemed to be different from other people. All the time I tried to talk about something that happened with me, and I never could reach other people with this. And in the moment now, there is much movement in the Zoom room, also on the platform of Nothing FM, and 4 years ago, something picked me up, and I fell back into this trauma. At the first time, I didn't realize that at this point, I'm 55 now, and 4 years ago, with 50, I fell back into this trauma. And then I realized I really need help now. I really need help, because I couldn't bring this two worlds together, something like that.
Would you
And
share
I started,
your experience?
I met a woman that touched me that much in the middle of, it was same to same, and I broke up just by having this touch of another person. I think it was like I made a distance between others and me the whole life, and then it came into my room in having this contact with this person. Others are talking about soulmates and things like that. This is this could be really a re-triggering thing, to meet someone that feels so near that I fall back inside of all what is down in me, and it broke up all. And I realized I cannot handle this. And then I started a trauma therapy, and this was so absolutely helpful.
Good.
Just for 1 year to do that. And in these rooms, in these Zoom rooms where I'm traveling around, I feel so many people that are so traumatized because of this. I know that there is no me, but at the same time, there is a me that is breaking up and is more than a me. It's just, it fills up the whole room. And it's like I had the idea, I become crazy with what is in this. I couldn't realize what's this all. This was just all felt into my room like this.
Wow.
Yeah. And the most beautiful thing was what you said ago about friends. I have these friends, and they were there. I couldn't talk with them about this. I needed a therapeutic work, because they tried to bring me back to the old Heidi I were, because they had me 40 years with me. And I realized this is not what I mean. This is something totally else. And then just one therapeutic moment was when I just could make a step out of, with a handling, with a doing something. And that was really helpful, because now I have the possibility to be relaxed with this traumatic thing on one side, and also with letting go all this what was. It came up all at once. So I just wanted to share. It's great to meet someone like you that goes for that, because it's really important.
Yes.
It's really important.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. This is for everybody. If you had a trauma therapy really helps.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for
beautiful.
showing
Oh,
up.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's really beautiful to hear that.
It's good. Great. Thank you.
You're from the Netherlands, right?
From Switzerland.
Switzerland. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not far away.
Yeah. No, it's near. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. Thank you.
Heidi, thank you for that. Eugene, I saw you had your hand up earlier. Did you have a follow-up question? I see that you're currently unmuted.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I withdrew my hand.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Okay.
I figured I'd ask.
I'll mute myself too.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, you weren't making any noise. All right. So, and I just want to read another comment from Victoria Negi. Everything is nothing and no thing is everything. That was from earlier. I think she's left. And then Luciana just popped in to say hello in the chat and say, good to see you.
You know, everything is nothing. I would change a little bit. Everything is no thing. Make a dash there. Everything is no thing.
Yeah, she said everything is nothing and no thing is everything. So yeah, it's a little twist
yeah,
to
right. That's a
yeah.
nice twist. Yeah.
And then yeah, John's asking what's your website again? So
findingawakening.com.
very good. It'll be, it's in the description. The link's in the description of this, but findingawakening.com. And it's also on nothing.fm on the events page. So if anyone has any additional questions, let us know. And is there anything, I guess, about now, before we get closing, I've asked you a little bit about your, working with people and things like that. This would be a great time to tell us about, you mentioned you have a book coming out. Do you have regular meetings? What do you have coming up for anyone interested?
Yes, you're hitting me right now in a total transition where I'm not sure. Now I'm fully booked and I cannot take new clients this year. So I'm thinking about what to do, and I know that something is changing. I just still can't get out of my normal thinking fully. But I think I will offer something that I probably would have thought to be totally impossible a year ago. And it goes in the direction of doing online retreats about one step, where everybody joins who wants to join and works on it, and offering that regularly so they can fully get through the step, but they work on their own at home. They can, of course, ask me questions and anything during the thing, something like that. I'm not quite sure how this will work out because there are so many people asking that it's really difficult to help everybody. And I really would love for everybody to end the suffering and to just rest in this totally imperturbable peace. And the silence is my most dominant experience. Though I can talk a lot, but there's really silence behind that, and a love joy that is in the background. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, our tagline is amplifying the speakers of what is. That's the whole purpose here, is to make all of these versions of the message available to more.
Right.
Heidi, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I have a following remarking, because what was interesting with my trauma therapy was I did it by Skype.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and
Wow.
this is very important because the woman that did it with me, she said, I didn't do that before, but we can try it to do it in this room, and it works. That's what I wanted to share too. It works to be in this room to make this therapy. Yeah,
I just love it when I get so clear messages.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really it was I did it for 1 year.
Yes.
Once a week.
Yes.
And it works. It really works.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have now the possibility to go the steps by my own. All day long. If it comes back, if I feel I'm disordered or things like that, I can sit down and can go back to the steps, come down, and yeah, it's
beautiful.
Possible. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for the message.
Go for it. It's great to do it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you everyone for your time today. We'll go ahead and close. I have typed someone asked, you know, is the replay available? So the same link that the live stream on YouTube is going to be, will be the replay. And I've posted it into chat here in Zoom. I've also posted the findingawakening.com URL into chat, and it is in the description. That's it for us today. Christiane, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for answering these questions. And thank you to everyone who messaged in your questions and asked them. And really, really helpful.
Thank you very much, Noel. And thank everybody who was there and contributed. And if you want to ask questions, I will answer them on YouTube. I can only answer one channel, then otherwise it gets too much. Please go to the YouTube channel. If you have any question for me, tag me there and ask the question. I'll look and find you.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Everyone have great days, nights, mornings, wherever you are. We really appreciate it. We'll see you all soon.
Goodbye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.